Welcome back to the SEC Baseball Nerds podcast. My name is Patrick Brown.
I'm Daniel Helms, and this is where we cover all things SEC baseball and more.
We have a very special guest joining us today, former Nevada baseball coach Gary Powers. And before I introduce him formally, I will name you his amazing stats. All right, so he played at Nevada in the early 1970s before becoming the Nevada Wolfpack head coach in 1983. Over 31 seasons, he posted a career record of 937, 762, and 5, three times more than any other coach in Nevada Wolfpack athletics history. Powers led Nevada to four NCAA regional berths in 94, 97, 99, and 2000, was a four-time conference coach of the year, and produced 17 All-Americans with 79 players drafted by Major League Baseball. Wow.
We have some questions for you. Like the first one I would have is how the transfer portal has impacted the game significantly since you left coaching. How big of an impact do you think it has on college baseball and like other sports?
I think it's totally changed the landscape of the entire process in every sport. We had transfer rules and the ability for kids to transfer one time when I was coaching, and everybody played within those rules. And now it's kind of like a free for all. And so it's you're finding out the people that I talk to right now, the hardest thing, especially at schools like Nevada and at that level, people are recruiting the better players from their programs right out from underneath them, and so it's changed the landscape. I mean, immensely.
Coach, we know NIL has also changed college baseball and college athletics in general. We know you retired in 2013, so long before NIL even got started. But watching college baseball now and watching what the coaches have to deal with, how would you kind of adjust with NIL to keep your roster not leaving to other schools?
Well, the hard part there is the unknown. You just not everybody has the resources, the financial resources. A lot of the bigger schools, the SEC schools. I think this year's College World Series was pretty indicative of what college baseball landscape is going to be like. I mean, the SEC schools have a tremendous amount of more money, more resources financially, better financial support. I think all the schools that are in those conferences, I think their administrations value baseball more so than a lot of smaller schools do or can afford to. So I think it's a very difficult situation for coaches that are at the mid level to try to do what you just said, just keep your own players. I think what ends up happening is I've talked to a few of them, is they just hope they can establish relationship with their players enough to keep them uh, there and keep them around. But if they don't, then they've kind of relegated themselves to the fact that they're just going to have to go back out and replace those players on a yearly basis.
That was a great answer. And another question, enough about like the transfer portal and the NIL. That stuff has obviously changed the game a lot, as you just said. But what are some of the toughest things to do while you were coaching in Nevada? Like toughest like things that you had to do as a coach.
Well, I think before I answer that question, I want to add one thing to that other is what I think is going to happen, and you'll see this if you'll talk to more coaches. The people that get hurt with this NIL and the transfer portal in the recruiting process are kids coming out of high school. You're going to see fewer and fewer schools take the chance to recruit seniors in high school, and are going to spend more time getting junior college players and players out of the portal than they are recruiting young players. So the young players are going to be the ones that suffer. Then to go back to your question there, the biggest thing is to find the right players that have the right fit to your program. I think the success is based on having people that buy into your program and buy into your philosophies and stuff. So I think the recruiting aspect, when you have to be honest with the players, you have to be honest with the players' parents. You got to all be on the same page. You got to all want the same return from the process, and you got to be willing to find players that buy into the hard work that it takes to get where they want to go. Everybody wants to play in the big leagues, but not everybody can play in the big leagues. Or are they willing to spend the time, effort, and energy to do it the right way? I mean, there's a right way to play the game, and there's a wrong way to play the game. And if you don't have unbelievable talent, then you better be fundamentally sound. And players have to understand that, and families have to understand that, so they support one another, and you're all one family, really.
That makes a ton of sense, especially about all the things that they just have to kind of agree with your program, your ideals, and how it works. Patrick, do you have another question?
Yeah, Coach, piggybacking off that, what was your kind of sales pitch to high school recruits? And you mentioned even the few transfer portal guys that would hop in there, say, hey, come up to this West Coast school in Nevada and be a part of this program we're building.
Well, we were a program development program. We were a development program. The players that we recruited were not highly recruited, and were not draft kind of players at the time, but we brought young players in that had potential, and then we sold the fact that, to parents especially, that we were just an extension of them in the development of their son, not only just in the baseball side of things, but as a student first, and then as a human being trying to develop the whole person. And hopefully at the end, then all the rewards for baseball would come, through the hard work and the sacrifices, and being a good teammate and doing the things that we asked them to do. I think the most important thing that that I always was consistent with is I was a hard guy to play for, because I believed in things needed to be done the right way, and fundamentals had to be developed for you to be ultimately successful. And I was really, really diligent with that, and our assistant coaches, supported that. And so only we would be honest with the kids and their families about, don't come if you're not going to want to work hard and have to make sacrifices that it was going to take for them to develop like they needed to develop to be able to go on and play the game.
Totally makes a lot of sense. It's like a year-round probably a commitment, and it's just a big commitment, so you have to work a lot. So what were some of you got tons of wins, obviously, lots of experience, over 900. What were some of your best, greatest moments and while coaching in college?
Well, I still get rewards from it, when I get telephone calls and emails or text messages from former players, thanking me for making them tough enough to be able to handle all the pressures of doing what they did, and becoming not just professional baseball players or major league baseball players, but being a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, a teacher, a coach, or whatever. I mean, it was all about the overall development of the person. So those are my highlights. Is I still get, you know, communications from people thanking me for the things that they did, and the hard work that we forced them to make, and the sacrifices we forced them to make so they could develop it, and they use it in their own families right now and in their own businesses and stuff like that. So those are better than any win of a baseball game, is to know that former players uh, feel that you had an impact on their life enough for them to be successful. And so that's what it was all really all about.
Coach, I wasn't very I didn't know much about Nevada baseball until a couple of days ago, so I was researching a lot. And you coached a lot of amazing players, but what was some of your favorite players to coach, just personality wise, maybe talent wise, or just fun to be around?
I wasn't always the most talented player. That it was the hardest working player. The kids that were like really good teammates, that develop bonds with their teammates, and develop being able to count on one another, have trust in one another, and trust in being able to know that you had one another's back and stuff like that. And I had a lot of guys that were that way, you know. I mean, you couldn't stay in our program if you didn't have a little bit of that, or else it just wouldn't have worked. So that was what I was looking for, and some of the best players I had weren't necessarily the major league players, but I can tell you 90% of those kids that played in the major leagues were guys that had that kind of mental toughness and were willing to go to war with their teammates on a daily basis. So that's really was a trait of our program.
That's amazing. I mean, you just work hard enough. Eventually, you might not get the big goal, but you will get somewhere, and you will learn something.
Yeah, there's no two ways about
Amazing.
that. You know, I mean, it's you get, if you put more into it, you'll get more out of it. And the biggest thing is not being afraid to put more in than you get out of it. That's in anything.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to say?
No, I
Or
just
maybe
appreciate you guys taking the time, you know. I'm glad we got this put together so you guys can do what you do. I admire that you like baseball and you're such a fan of baseball, and you have passion for the game, and you guys could both play for me in that respect.
Well, thank you. We just really appreciate you coming on as well. Thank
Anytime.
Thank you for anyone who is watching. And if you want to, you don't have to. You can like, subscribe, do whatever you want. But just really thank you for coming on to the show.
Any way I can help, guys, let me know.
All right.